There's a moment every parent knows where you can feel your child shutting down and everything you're doing is making it worse. You've been given all the perfect scripts and techniques, but where's the script for you, the person behind the parent? Your child is emotional, reactive, having a meltdown. You want it to end, but you also know if you give in, you're letting them get away with it. You don't want to hurt them. You don't want to look like a monster. And you also don't want to be gentle and come across as weak, and it feels like coming down hard on them is the only option left. Is gentle parenting actually weak, though? Or is permissive with no limits and no ground to stand on what weak actually looks like? Because with all the social media trends and dopamine addicted minds of everyone on there, it's easy to think gentle parenting is weak and useless. But here, what took me years to figure out from my own chaotic childhood, the thing that actually reaches them in the moment isn't more force, it's precision. Real gentleness is the most precise thing there is. I know that because I was that kid that nobody was gentle with. I learned what it costs from the inside. By the end of this, you'll have one thing you can actually use tonight, in the hard moment before you say the thing that you'll regret. It didn't come from a parenting book. It came from a dance, martial art. It became a trend, but it isn't a trend. It's a correction to a much older idea about children, one that called feeling soft, sensitive, weak. Not too long ago, I used to be a hip hop instructor for an after school program. No shared history with any of these kids. Just an 8-week program and a stage at the end of it. There was one girl, we'll call her S. She was about 6, maybe 7. Every other kid in that room was 9 to 12. She was scared when she came in on the first day. Quiet, not connected with anyone. Her dad was encouraging her, but in the wrong way. He knew she loved dancing at home, he told me, which was exactly why his approach in that moment was wrong. His feelings about her potential filled the frame. Her real-time signal disappeared behind what he already knew about her. Can you remember a time when you were a child and what it was like the first day you walked into a room full of kids you didn't know, where every single one of them seemed older, more settled, like they already knew something you didn't? Do you remember what you needed in that moment? And when I approached S, I didn't stand in front of her. I was given a task to engage with her in a dance group with some of the other children. She was sitting on the bench alone. I sat down on the floor beside her because she was tiny. I didn't want to be another large presence in an already overwhelming room. All I did was ask her what her favorite song was. That's genuinely all I remember doing intentionally. I gently guided her back to her passion for music and dance. She had no idea who I was, yet she trusted me once I asked her that question. At the end of the 8 weeks, she was on stage with the group dancing. Her dad shook my hand after and said, "Thank you, Alex. She's never done that before." A few years later, she was leading her own dance groups. I didn't fix her fear. I didn't even address it at all. I just found where her joy lived and sat next to it. I was looking for the human being behind the fear. And so gentle is the word everyone mistranslates. Here's a different perspective. I'm going to show you how it connects directly to the bloody MMA throws and grappling techniques. Jujitsu translates from Japanese as the gentle art, the yielding art. Judo translates as the gentle way. The root, ju, means gentle, soft, yielding, flexible. Not one of those words means weak. Not one of them means passive. Every single one describes precision, moving with what's coming rather than against it. The thing looks like pure force from the outside. The name means the exact opposite. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened to gentle parenting. From the outside, from a reel, from a 30-second clip, it looks like something it isn't. The appearance deceives before the word ever gets defined. There's a principle judo is built on called kuzushi, breaking balance. You don't attack where someone is strongest. You find where their structure is already weakest, and you put the minimum force needed precisely there. It collapses under its own weight. Think about the last time you tried to force something that wasn't ready. Conversation, a jar lid, a piece of wood you were trying to fit when building your bed or cabinet. Did yelling at it or beating it solve the problem? That's what happened on the bench with S. S wasn't afraid of dancing. She was afraid of the room. Her fear was already off balance, so I didn't push against it. I found the one place it was already giving way, a question about a favorite song, and it collapsed on its own. A grandmaster isn't feeling it, he's applying it. That distinction dismantles the entire argument against the trend of gentle parenting in one sentence. Then why can't we apply the same thinking to a child who isn't attacking you? A child who is just overwhelmed and underskilled, doing the only thing their brain knows how to do, with feelings they have no words for yet. If gentleness is precise enough for a samurai facing a real threat, it's precise enough for a 4-year-old having a meltdown. If fighting opponents can respond to these philosophies, why can't that little child who just wants to feel safe in one of their weakest moments? Before I give you the tool, I want to say something to you. Not about your child, about you. Your nervous system is overloaded. In that moment, it genuinely feels like you don't have a choice. You're doing your best, but the force you're reaching for is working against you. The same way it was working against S's dad on the bench. He was ignoring her fear while forcing an outcome. Think about the last time the heat rose in your body, the jaw tightening, the chest getting hot, the volume wanting to climb. What happened to your thinking in that moment? Your child can't leave. They have the least power in the room and the fewest words to name what's happening to them and within them. Maybe that's a part of why they can't manage what they're feeling in the moment. And here's what nobody told you. Your child's meltdown and your own overload are the same thing wearing two faces. An old wish to be seen. They were never taught how to hold it. Neither were you. You can't hand a child a calm that you were never given yourself. Here's the thing that you can actually do tonight, in the moment before any of the rest of it is possible. The next time you feel it rising, the heat climbing, the jaw setting, try one word. Say it out loud or just inside your head. Space. Say it again if you need to. Space. Because that one word is you stepping back from the feeling instead of disappearing into it. Then name what it actually is. This is a feeling. This is not me. It's not the room. Picture the gap opening between you and the feeling. You're standing beside the feeling now, not inside it. And from that little bit of distance, you can finally see what's happening in your body. And you can choose what comes next. And another line you can add while you're in that gap. They're not giving me a hard time. We're both having one. And I get to be the one who sees it, and they can model it for me. Because fighting fire with fire will only create more fire. Sometimes a child in overload doesn't need more force. They need a hug. The same hug you'd need if you were the one drowning in it. I started doing this for myself. The space, the naming, because it was the strongest way I found to stop being absorbed by the feeling before I could choose anything. Which brings me to the reason I know this the way I know it. I want to tell you about a baby. Baby who came into this world and who only cried when his mother picked him up. Not always, but most of the time. Never cried from hunger, never cried from getting sick. Something his body was already registering before he had a single word for any of it. The same baby broke his arm when he was 3 years old. Nobody knew for 2 weeks because he didn't cry. That meant I was already primed to deal with pain and volatile sensations as a baby. My nervous system had already registered pain as something not as catastrophic as one would make it out to be. Then I became that toddler who was given unlimited amounts of processed sugar and caffeine, then beaten for what the sugar and caffeine produced, then labeled the problem. The adults created the conditions, and I paid for them. Then I became the child who watched violent movies, and who was beaten with kitchen utensils. I also tried to stab my uncle at the age of 7 or 8 years old. Where do you think I learned that from? A child doesn't arrive at that from nowhere. I came to that arrival because I had been shown about what you do when something feels threatening. Then I grew up into a young adult who fell into a crowd who only knew violence and crime, because that was the only map available. At 32, I was caught with a loaded gun and a significant amount of ammunition. Are you surprised that that was the outcome, given everything I just described? I came already primed to sit with pain and unpredictable sensations. What I was raised inside built something different on top of that. I wasn't born with any of this. Those aren't built into us from the start. They're built by our brain learning to predict based on what it keeps experiencing, which means something else can be built in its place. That's what presence actually is. Something you return to once you've cleared away enough of what got built over it. Quick distinction, because the whole thing depends on it. A person who can't hold a line, who says yes to everything and means nothing, they might look gentle, but they have no ground to stand on, so they collapse. The angry, aggressive person, also no ground. They override instead of collapse. Two completely different expressions, same root, neither one is gentle. Think of a monk. Decades of stillness and discipline. Nobody calls a monk weak. A monk has limits, firm ones, but they come from a rooted place, not a reactive one. That's what firm without force looks like. You name what you see. You hold the line. You stay. You don't raise the volume and you don't move the line. The limit holds because the person holding it isn't being swept away by their own reaction to your reaction. Gentle parenting handed you 100 scripts to calm your child. Nobody handed you the regulation first. That's not your failure. That's the gap you were dropped into. A trend that got passed around before it ever got properly defined. You can't pour from a cup that was never filled. You're not a bad parent. You're not weak for being gentle. You're the thermostat, not the thermometer reading the room's heat. The thing the room's temperature gets set by. And a thermostat can be reset. The rupture isn't the damage. The unrepaired rupture is. Every time you lose it and come back, you teach your child that disconnection doesn't have to be permanent. That the person who hurt them is also the person who returns. That's what builds safety. Return. If you want the actual starting point, the first thing I put into your hands is called the Reactive Parent Reboot. The link's in my description. It's a thing you run before the hard moment, so you're not starting from zero when it hits. And part 2 drops next Friday.